Traction control, push and hold, that'll turn it off. This is the FX4 package. With the FX4, you get the bigger screen, which is on the Lariat edition. We're not going to use hill control descent. We're going to use these traction control modes. You have tow haul, slippery, mud ruts, sand, normal, tow haul. Again, we're going to go all the way back to sand. Sand is what I have heard limits the computer interaction and assistance. So we have traction control off and we are in sand. I wish I had one of those things that measures the grade. This looks pretty steep and really big ruts. The all-wheel drive system is going to handle this no problem. But the one thing that really scares me about this truck versus my old Tacoma is ground clearance. The Tacoma had, who knows, 14 inches, something like that. This probably about half that. But if you can navigate through the right area, you can actually drive this thing up some pretty gnarly terrain. You feel the back end kick out there and start pushing the truck up the hill. I just got to be really careful. It makes me really nervous with the ground clearance. But as far as its ability to tackle some pretty rough terrain, this is pretty impressive. Seems like it's keeping it in first gear too. It's not shifting into second when you would expect it to normally. You can see the RPMs staying around 3. Just kind of like a manual transmission almost. We are in that sand mode, which is probably the only mode you should really use. If you want to get rid of all the computer assistance on the vehicle, the sand mode really gets rid of it all. So if you're stuck in snow and you want to drive the car like a real driver, put it in sand mode, take the traction control off, and that would probably be the best way to get out. Absolutely love the way this truck looks from the front. If you just turn those clearance lights on, it kind of looks like a little Viper. I'm a lifelong Toyota owner. I love the reliability of Toyotas, but they kind of got left in the dust. They had one of the best turbocharged motors ever made in the inline 6 and the super turbo, and then they abandoned it for 20 years while everyone else left them in the dust with these small turbocharged motors. This is a 2-liter turbo. It sits transverse to the rear axle. It has 277 foot-pounds of torque, 250 horsepower. This car only weighs, I call it a car because it's not really a truck. It weighs 3,800 pounds. So that horsepower to weight ratio is really good. Okay, I've never done this before. I don't like doing this to any of my vehicles where you just ream them as hard as you can possibly go. But we're gonna do a 0 to 60 here. And I'll do a little bit of a brake launch. So I might have hit stop a little early, but around 7 seconds. As someone who likes cars, you know, motorcycles, things that are loud, this just sounds like a sewing machine. It's hard, but that's just how all small 2-liter turbos sound nowadays. Naturally aspirated big motors are a thing of the past. This is such a comfortable ride. It is so smooth, way smoother than a real truck. There's a big bridge abutment that's pretty rough. Just goes right over it. Hardly even notice it. Very smooth at high speeds. Much more comfortable than a traditional truck. This truck is so much more comfortable than a Toyota Tacoma. The seat itself, I don't know if the seat itself is more comfortable, but you can just adjust it so much more. I'm gonna take it, this luxury package comes with the electronic seat. If you look here on my head clearance, always felt like my head was touching the top of my Tacoma. That's with the seat all the way down. And I will put it all the way up here. I have the seat all the way up now. You can see not much clearance. If this had a sunroof, I'd probably be touching. And in my Tacoma, I did have a sunroof. So this is what I felt like in my Tacoma all the time. One thing with the engagement of this vehicle, there's just too much what I would call conversation between the car and you. So I'm sitting here parked and I open the door. It tells me the vehicle's on. That's cool, I'm aware of that. Now it's telling me that the door's open. Now it's flashing that the vehicle's on again. I shut the door and it tells me that I have my seatbelt on, which I'm aware of as well. Now, when I put it in drive, it does tell me that the backseat passenger has a seatbelt on as well, but the error message doesn't go away. So I guess I have to hit OK to get the infotainment screen to go to normal mode. One of my favorite things about this truck is how good of gas mileage it gets. It's really incredible. My Toyota Tacoma 3rd generation, I got 14 to 17, maybe 19 miles per gallon. It was pretty bad. I just took this to Denver, 1,250 miles, 25.5 miles per gallon at 85 miles an hour with a 500-pound motorcycle in the back. Up here in Montana and Wyoming, we have really high speed limits, 75, 80, pretty much everywhere. We also have 30-mile-an-hour winds all the time. So to get 25.5 and 1,200 miles at 85 miles an hour up here is really impressive. One of the things about the start-stop on these vehicles, I really do not like it. I find it very dangerous, and here's why. We're pulling up to a 70-mile-an-hour speed limit, and the vehicle just died on me, and I gotta punch it to get going, and you feel that delay of just about a half second, and that half-second delay is really dangerous. When you got the auto start stop is really rough on the vehicle. I don't get it, but I'll show you why. But pulling up to park here, I have the auto start stop on, so I just slowly pull up. Now the motor turns off, I put it in park, it starts again, I turn the car off. That's just really rough on the motor to me, and I don't see how that saves gas. I am really harsh on the auto hard stop, but I don't live in a big city. If I did live in a big city where I was sitting at 1 to 2 minute stoplights all the time, and the temperature was okay to where I could deal with the climate control turning off, the auto start stop probably would save you gas. But for me, I don't live in a big city, so it's a feature that I just don't like. 2023 Ford Maverick FX4 tow package, XLT luxury package. I've been waiting almost 2 years for this truck. I put money down 2 years ago on the same truck. A year later, after I put money down, they told me the only way to get the truck was to delete the luxury package. Up here in Montana, when it's -20, heated seats are pretty cool. So I ordered another truck with the luxury package, and a year later, this truck finally showed up. 2023 XLT with the luxury package. One of the things with the luxury package is you do get a 110 plug in the back. You also have a light there, which is pretty cool. That does not come without the luxury package. Something that I don't like on a vehicle, a brand new vehicle, is there's no spray-in bed liner or anything. It's really hard for me to own a truck and just throw stuff in here and scratch it up. So the fact that with the luxury package you still don't get a spray-in or plastic bed liner is kind of odd to me. One thing that is cool, if you have any electrical skills whatsoever, these are actually pre-wired, so you can add auxiliary lights. more power to charge cell phones or things like that while you're camping. So I'm not sure what these are for, but they're pretty cool if you want to add auxiliary lights or more power supplies in the back of the bed. This sliding rear window here, on my Tacoma, you hit a button and you could get it to open. You can't reach that from the driver's seat. So with the luxury package, it doesn't come with the electronic sliding window. If you get the Lariat, it does. I think if you pay for the luxury package, you should get the rear sliding window. If you don't get the electric sliding window, it's kind of pointless because you're never going to use it. I am just under 6 foot, 185 pounds. This front seat is all the way up, but there's plenty of room back here. You could still scoot that front seat back 3 or 4 inches. With the luxury package, you do get a 110 plug in the back. Really cool for traveling. If you have kids, they can charge all their devices. There's 3 charging ports here, essentially, at least. With the 110, you could put 2 more, so you could potentially charge at least 4 devices. In this truck, there's all these little cubby holes, cool little spots to put stuff. You can set your wallet right here, down there, put your phone. There's all different spots, probably 20 cup holders. But one thing I don't get about this setup here is, what is this for? You can't really use it for, I mean, you're not gonna put your wallet there. You're not gonna put your phone there. I mean, you could put a bottle of water like that, but I'm not sure you'd want to do that. So I don't really get it. The part that kind of bothers me about it is when you're driving, you can't see the screen. Your right arm is in the way. If you do drive at 10 and 2 or whatever you would call this, your arm, it blocks your view of the screen, especially if you put the seat lower. Whereas if they got rid of this, you could move the screen over that much farther and you could see it better while you're driving. Also, these air vents, middle air vents, are too low to what I'm used to. If you move this over, got rid of this useless compartment, maybe you could have an air vent up here, which would help get air into the back seat. Versus down here, you can see I have them tilted to shoot the air into the back. A big knock on these mid-size trucks, Toyota Tacomas, these size of vehicles. They're big enough for 6 foot 5 foot tall people to sit in the back, but they don't have any air vents. They do have air vents under the seat. This has air vents for the feet heat, like you do in a Tacoma, but there's no air vents for the passenger in the back. The 3rd generation Tacoma, it has one of the best stock approach angles, departure angles, and ground clearance of any stock vehicle. This Maverick, the ground clearance is really low. It's about half of a Tacoma. If you're used to driving bigger trucks like that, it's gonna take some getting used to driving a smaller car like this, because you will rip this off a parking block if you pull into it. And if you're used to driving a Tacoma, you just bash right into the parking block, and when you go to leave, you drive away. When you back up with this, you're gonna rip it right off. So that's something you gotta get used to. Off-road, it does make me really nervous, but we just drove up that pretty nasty hill and it did really well. It is a little higher in the back, you can see the rake, but if you put a bunch of weight in it, it levels out. The bed of this truck is what I would say is one of the only downsides to this truck. Trucklet, car, whatever you want to call it. If they could have just made this bed about 6 inches longer, you could fit snow skis in here, a weed eater, things like that, without having to have the tailgate down. Now, I did just drive back from Denver with the motorcycle in here. It was pretty impressive that you could fit that big of a bike in here, just barely. Well, I'll flash a picture of that. So you can use this bed, you're just gonna have to have the tailgate down all the time to put anything of a real truck size in it. In my first review of the 2022 Ford Maverick, I made fun of the engineer, said that he must live in Florida or something. Up here, we're in Montana where it snows all the time. You got to take your wipers up, and with the vehicle on, I guess you can't do it, so that's cool. With the vehicle off, what you do, so the engineer really is from Detroit, you just slide it over like that, and then you can pull the wipers up. So thanks to the gentleman who commented on the first video showing me that. I do feel that this is a little rough on that mechanical system there. I guess you could leave them up where they are and set them there, but then that requires you to scratch up the window like I just did there on a dry window. Got hill descent control on. It is in sand mode and traction control is off. This is a really steep grade. Cameras never do it justice. We got traction control off, hill descent control on, and it is in sand mode. And you can see how it's slowing down the truck really aggressively. That's pretty impressive, actually.
It's your ABS, what it is.
Yep. And we're gonna go in the rut on purpose here. I haven't hit the brakes once. I'm not gonna go in that huge rut because of the ground clearance issues. A little bit right here, I will. I didn't hit the brakes one time there.